Martha, 75, hasn't spoken a full sentence in over 40 years. And no one in this quiet American town knows why they only know this. She lives alone in a decaying Victorian mansion at the edge of town. And every single year on the same unknown day, she does the same disturbing thing. She places a bouquet of white flowers at the back door, then stands completely still, as if waiting for someone who will never come back. No one is allowed in her backyard. Not neighbors. Not workers. Not even the police. The iron gate back there has been locked for decades, swallowed by rust and vines, like something the world was meant to forget. Some say she is protecting a fortune buried behind it. Others whisper something darker, that someone died there, and Martha never escaped that night either. But everything changes the morning a young gardener named Leo is hired to clean the overgrown estate. He doesn't believe the warnings, until his shovel hits something buried deep under an old oak tree.metal.old. Sealed. Hidden on purpose. When he pulls it from the ground, the entire air around the mansion seems to stop breathing. And the moment Martha sees what's inside that rusted box, she does something she hasn't done in 40 years. She collapses. Leo slowly opened the rusted tin box, expecting something ordinary. Maybe old jewelry, forgotten letters, or junk buried by time. But inside there was only two things: a silver necklace and a faded photograph. The necklace looked old but carefully preserved, as if someone had protected it from the world for decades. On the tiny pendant, a name was engraved, Rose -1965, and beneath it, a black and white photo of two young girls standing side by side, smiling at the camera. They looked identical in happiness and in innocence. For a moment, Leo didn't understand what he was looking at. Then he heard it, a sudden sound behind him. The back door of the mansion was open. Martha stood there. And for the first time, Leo saw something no one in town had ever seen before: fear. Her eyes locked onto the necklace in his hands. The color drained from her face. "No," she whispered, barely audible. Her hands began to shake. Then her knees gave out, before Leo could even step forward to help her. Martha collapsed onto the wooden floor, like the weight of 40 years had finally broken through her body in a single second. And as Leo rushed toward her, one question burned in his mind: who was Rose? And why did that name destroy her completely? Martha lay on the wooden floor, her breath uneven, her hands still trembling as if she was holding on to something invisible from the past. Leo knelt beside her, but she didn't look at him. Her eyes were fixed on the silver necklace, on the name Rose. For a long time, the only sound in the room was the ticking of an old clock and Martha's broken breathing. Then, in a voice barely louder than a whisper, she finally spoke. "I told myself I would never see that name again." Leo froze. 40 years of silence. And now, just one word had opened it. Martha slowly sat up, her eyes lost somewhere far beyond the room, far beyond the present. "That photo," she said softly. "We were just girls. We thought the world belonged to us." Her fingers tightened. But the world doesn't forgive mistakes made in fear. She looked at Leo for the first time, and what he saw in her eyes wasn't just sadness, it was guilt. Buried so deep it had turned into a lifetime of silence. There was an incident. In that house, she said. Leo didn't interrupt. Because he could feel it now. This wasn't just a story. It was something that had been suffocating her for decades. Martha's voice cracked. And after that night, Rose disappeared. A long pause. Then she added something that made Leo's chest tighten. And I never told the truth. Outside, the wind pressed against the mansion like a warning. Inside, the past had just begun to wake up. Leo didn't speak. He couldn't. Because something in Martha's voice made the room feel heavier. Like the air itself was filled with a story no one was supposed to hear. Martha slowly stood up, holding onto the edge of the table as if the past was pulling her back down. It was 1965, she began, her voice shaking but steadying with each word. We worked in this house. Rose and I just servants. Nobody important. She let out a bitter breath. But inside these walls, we weren't invisible. We were watched. Leo's eyes narrowed slightly. Watched? Martha nodded, as if answering a question no one had asked out loud. One night, something went missing. A piece of jewelry. Expensive, irreplaceable. She paused. And they chose someone to blame. The silence stretched. Leo could already feel where this was going. It was Rose. Martha said. Her voice broke on the name. They said she took it. There was no proof, but it didn't matter. In a house like this, truth was never as important as reputation. Martha's hands clenched tightly. They threw her out that same night. Snow was falling so hard. I still remember how she looked at me at the door. Her eyes reddened, like she was waiting for me to speak. A long silence followed. Leo finally whispered, Did you? Martha didn't answer right away. That hesitation said everything. I was afraid, she said finally. I told myself if I spoke up, I would lose everything. My job, my place, my future. She let out a shaky laugh, but I lost it anyway. Just slower. She turned toward the window. And after that night, Rose never came back. A beat. Then she added something quieter, more painful. I thought she hated me. Outside, the wind pressed harder against the glass. Inside, Leo realized something terrifying. This wasn't just a memory. It was a wound that had never stopped bleeding. For the first time in decades, Martha let someone else take control. Leo didn't know why he stayed. Maybe it was the way her voice broke when she said Rose's name. Or maybe it was the feeling that this story wasn't finished yet. But he made a decision. We're going to find her, he said. Martha shook her head immediately. It's been too long. People like us don't get second chances. But Leo was already on his phone. At first, it was just curiosity. Old records, names, places. A story no one had touched in 50 years. Then something strange happened. The name Rose started appearing. Not in one place, but in fragments. A hospital record, a missing employment file, an old community listing from another state. And then a lead. a woman in a small, underfunded nursing facility in another part of the country. Name. Rose. Age matched. No visitors recorded in years. Martha stared at the screen. Without blinking. Her voice came out almost like air. That's not possible. But Leo was already booking the trip. The journey was long and silent. Martha barely spoke the entire way. Her hands never stopped shaking. Sometimes she would look out the window like she expected the past to appear on the roadside. When they finally arrived, the building was quiet. Too quiet. A nurse led them down a narrow hallway. Martha stopped walking halfway. I can't, she whispered. If it's not her, I won't survive it. Leo didn't push her. He just opened the door, and inside the room sat a woman in a wheelchair. Her hair was white. Her eyes were distant. But when Martha stepped forward and whispered one name, Rose, the woman slowly turned her head. The room felt completely still. The woman in the wheelchair stared at Martha for a long moment, as if the name itself was traveling through layers of forgotten time. Rose. Martha repeated, her voice breaking. It's me, Martha. Her knees weakened again, but this time she didn't fall. Leo held her up just enough. Tears finally came after decades of silence. I'm sorry, Martha whispered. I should have spoken. I should have stopped it. I should have... Her words collapsed into sobs she had buried for most of her life. The woman in the wheelchair slowly reached out her hand. And then she smiled. Not confused. Not afraid. Just gentle. You don't remember? The woman said softly. Martha froze. The voice was older now, weaker, but unmistakable. And then Rose did something unexpected. She lifted her hand slightly, revealing something in her palm. A silver necklace, identical to the one Leo had found. Martha's breath stopped. Rose looked at her with quiet warmth. I never blamed you, she said. I chose to stay silent because you were trying to survive. A pause. Then the truth finally came out. That night, I took the blame on purpose. Martha's eyes widened in disbelief. Rose continued, calm but fragile. You wanted to protect our family. I knew that. If both of us were destroyed, nothing would be left. So, I did what I thought was right. A tear rolled down her cheek. I just didn't know it would keep you in prison longer than any punishment ever could. Martha fell to her knees this time, not from shock, but from the unbearable weight of love and misunderstanding, carried for half a century. Leo stepped back quietly. There was nothing left to fix, only something finally healing. Two sisters broken by time, separated by silence, sat together again after 50 years of pain that was never meant to exist. Outside, the world kept moving, but inside that small room, forgiveness finally found its way home. If this story touched you, don't forget to like and subscribe for more emotional stories like this.